My name is Kennedy Hamilton, and at 67 years old, I never imagined I would wake up completely bald on the morning of my only son William's wedding. My beautiful silver hair, the pride of my appearance, gone. My daughter-in-law Bella had shaved my head while I slept. When confronted, she simply said it was well-deserved. My son laughed and said, "Now maybe someone will finally feel sorry for you." They had no idea what was coming next. Before I continue this shocking story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button and like this video if you have ever had to deal with a difficult in-law situation. I became a widow when William was just 10 years old. My husband Jack died suddenly from a heart attack, leaving me to raise our son alone. It was the most difficult time of my life, but I was determined to give William everything he needed to thrive despite our loss. I threw myself into my career as an interior designer, working long hours to ensure we maintained financial stability. Those early years were filled with grief and exhaustion, but also a special bond that formed between William and me as we navigated our new reality together. My design business eventually flourished, allowing me to provide William with opportunities I had only dreamed of offering him. I never missed a soccer game or school event, balancing work with being present for every important moment. During those formative years, I watched my sweet, thoughtful boy grow into a compassionate young man who made me proud every day. William showed an early interest in buildings and spaces, often visiting my design sites and asking thoughtful questions about structural elements that went beyond aesthetics. It was no surprise when he decided to pursue architecture in college. I remember the day his acceptance letter arrived from Cornell. We danced around our kitchen, celebrating not just his achievement, but the future that was opening up before him. I worked extra projects that year to ensure he could attend without financial worry. Throughout college, we maintained our close connection with weekly phone calls and monthly visits. He would share his projects with excitement, and I could see my own creative passion reflected in his eyes. When he graduated with honors, I sat in the audience bursting with pride, tears streaming down my face as he crossed the stage. That night, he thanked me for everything I had sacrificed to get him there. Those words meant everything to me. After graduation, William secured a position at a prestigious architectural firm in Boston. I helped him move into his first apartment, decorating it together over a weekend filled with laughter and takeout food. We established a tradition of Sunday dinners either at his place or mine, keeping our bond strong as he built his career. During these dinners, we would discuss everything from his latest projects to my client, challenges to books we were reading. There was nothing we couldn't talk about. My appearance had always been important to me, not out of vanity, but as an extension of my professional presentation and personal pride. As I aged, my once dark brown hair transitioned to a striking silver that fell past my shoulders. I embraced this change, caring for my hair meticulously, and often receiving compliments from clients and friends alike. William would tease me about being the most stylish mom among his friends, but I could tell he was proud when his colleagues commented on my youthful energy and elegant appearance. Despite being in my 60s, I maintained an active social life with a circle of close friends and occasional dating, though no one had captured my heart since Jack. I stayed physically fit through yoga and swimming, dressed well, and approached life with enthusiasm that belied my age. William often joked that I had more energy than he did. The women William dated before Bella always seemed to genuinely like me. There was Amanda, his college girlfriend, who would sometimes call me for advice, even after they broke up amicably. Later came Stephanie, a fellow architect who would join our Sunday dinners and engage me in conversations about design trends. When that relationship ended due to career paths taking them to different cities, Stephanie hugged me goodbye and said I had been like a second mother to her. William and I navigated life decisions together. When he was considering switching firms for a better opportunity, we spent hours discussing the pros and cons. When I was thinking about downsizing from our family home to a condo, he helped me evaluate options and eventually assisted with renovating the new space. He supported my decision to scale back my business hours as I approached my mid-60s, encouraging me to enjoy more leisure time while keeping my hand in the projects I loved most. I remember the day William closed on his own house, a charming craftsman-style home needing considerable work. We popped champagne on the empty living room floor, and he asked me to help him restore it to its original beauty. Over the next 6 months, we spent weekends stripping woodwork, selecting period-appropriate fixtures, and debating paint colors. That house became a physical manifestation of our bond, my design experience merging with his architectural vision. When it was finished, he insisted on having a guest room that was mine anytime I wanted to stay. That room, painted in my favorite shade of blue, became my second home. Little did I know that the close relationship we had built over 27 years was about to face its greatest challenge when Bella entered our lives. I first met Bella Thornton at a charity auction for historical building preservation. I had invited William to join me since the cause aligned with his architectural interests. He arrived late, apologizing profusely while introducing the stunning woman beside him. Bella was impeccably dressed in a designer outfit I immediately recognized from my years in the design world. Her dark hair was styled in a sleek bob, her makeup flawless. She extended her hand with a bright smile, complimenting my vintage brooch with knowledge that suggested familiarity with fine jewelry. Bella worked as a marketing executive for luxury fashion brands, a career that had taken her around the world. Her conversation was engaging, filled with stories of Paris fashion weeks and Milan design showcases. I made genuine efforts to connect with her, asking thoughtful questions about her work and background. On the surface, she seemed perfect for William, sophisticated and ambitious, with similar appreciation for aesthetics. As the evening progressed, I noticed small moments that gave me pause. When another attendee complimented my expertise in historical home restoration, Bella quickly redirected the conversation to a campaign she had managed for a luxury home brand. When William mentioned my contribution to a local design award, she touched his arm and commented, "Your mother certainly makes sure everyone knows about her accomplishments." The comment was delivered with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, but I dismissed my discomfort, assuming she was simply nervous meeting me. What followed was a whirlwind romance that left me struggling to keep up. Within 3 months, William called to announce their engagement. I was stunned by the speed but tried to sound enthusiastic. When I asked about their plans, he informed me that Bella had already booked a luxury resort in Hawaii for a destination wedding 6 months later. No discussion, no consideration of family traditions or my input. I swallowed my disappointment and offered my congratulations. The changes in William became apparent almost immediately. Our Sunday dinners dwindled from weekly to monthly, always with explanations about Bella's busy schedule. When they did occur, Bella dominated the conversation, often subtly cutting me off or dismissing my contributions. I noticed William watching her for approval, before speaking something entirely new for my confident son. Bella's comments about my appearance began casually. "Oh, Kennedy, that outfit is so youthful. I admire how you refuse to dress your age. Or have you considered a shorter haircut? Long hair after 60 can look like you're trying too hard to hold on to youth." Each remark was couched in false concern, making it impossible to object without seeming oversensitive. Despite these undercurrents, I contributed generously to their wedding fund. William had mentioned their desire for an elaborate celebration, and I wanted to help make their day special. I wrote a check that represented a significant portion of my savings, thinking it would be appreciated and perhaps improve my relationship with Bella. Instead, she accepted it with a casual thanks and immediately began talking about the designer dress she could now afford. Traditionally, the mother of the groom is involved in certain aspects of wedding planning, from the rehearsal dinner to family coordination. Bella systematically excluded me from these roles. The rehearsal dinner was assigned to her parents. My suggestions for family photos were dismissed. When I offered to host a small engagement gathering, Bella had already arranged one with her friends where I felt like an afterthought. The wedding was set at the Grand Palms Resort in Maui, a stunning oceanfront property with accommodation costs that strained my budget despite my comfortable financial situation. I later learned that most of Bella's family had their rooms compensated as part of the wedding package, while I was expected to pay the full rate for my ocean view suite. I said nothing, not wanting to create problems before the important day. As family members began arriving 3 days before the ceremony, I noticed the subtle dynamics at play. My brother Thomas and his wife Julia immediately commented on the tension they observed between Bella and me. My sister-in-law Catherine, who had known me since college, pulled me aside after the welcome reception to ask if everything was all right. I reassured everyone that pre-wedding stress was normal and that I was focused on supporting William's happiness. Privately, I was increasingly concerned. William had always been thoughtful and considerate, valuing my opinion and treating me with respect. Now he seemed distant, quick to side with Bella in any disagreement and dismissive of my feelings. During a quiet moment on the resort balcony, my brother Thomas gently suggested that William seemed under Bella's spell, using the exact phrase that had been echoing in my mind. Despite my growing unease, I remained determined to support my son's choice and find a way to build a relationship with my future daughter-in-law. I still believed that with time and patience, Bella would recognize my genuine desire to welcome her into our family. I had no idea how drastically wrong I was, or how soon I would discover the true nature of the woman my son had chosen to marry. The tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface erupted into clear hostility. During the 3 days leading up to the wedding, I arrived at the Grand Palms Resort on Wednesday afternoon, greeted warmly by the staff, who helped me settle into my suite overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The welcome reception was scheduled for that evening, and I dressed carefully in a tasteful blue silk dress that complemented my silver hair without being flashy. When I entered the private beach pavilion where the event was being held, William's cousin Grace immediately rushed over to embrace me. "You look absolutely radiant, Kennedy. That color is perfect with your gorgeous hair. I always tell my daughters I hope my silver comes in half as beautiful as yours." Before I could thank her, I caught sight of Bella across the room, her expression darkening as she observed our interaction. Throughout the evening, various family members and friends approached to greet me. Many had not seen me since Jack's funeral years ago, and there were numerous comments about how well I looked and how proud Jack would have been of William. With each compliment, I noticed Bella moving closer, inserting herself into conversations or pulling William over to redirect attention. The following morning, the wedding party had a private breakfast, while other guests were free to enjoy the resort. I joined my brother Thomas and his family by the pool, enjoying catching up with my nieces and nephews. Around noon, William texted asking if I would join them for lunch, which I happily accepted. During this lunch, I overheard a conversation that shook me deeply. Excusing myself to use the restroom, I was walking back through the outdoor restaurant when I heard Bella's voice from behind a decorative screen. "She's doing it on purpose, you know." 3 bridesmaids murmured in response as Bella continued. "Kennedy's brought 4 different outfits that all perfectly match the wedding colors. She's had extensions put in her hair to make it even longer. She's literally trying to outshine me at my own wedding. The rehearsal dinner is going to be a nightmare with her parading around like some silver fox trying to get attention." I froze, stunned by the venom in her voice and the complete fabrication of her claims. My hair was natural, not extended, and I'd carefully chosen outfits in subdued colors, specifically to complement, but not compete with the wedding palette. I quietly returned to the table, my appetite gone, trying to maintain my composure through the remainder of the meal. That afternoon, William dropped by my room with updated schedules and seating charts. I noticed immediately that my seat had been changed from the family table near the bride and groom to a distant table with distant acquaintances. When I gently questioned, William's response was curt. "Bella thinks it's better for the immediate families to be together. Her parents paid for most of the wedding, so they should be closest. It's not a big deal, Mom." But it was a big deal. It was one in a series of deliberate exclusions that were becoming impossible to ignore. That evening, I asked William if we could speak privately. We walked along the beach as the sun set, and I carefully expressed my feelings of being sidelined in the wedding preparations and my concerns about Bella's apparent hostility toward me. His reaction was devastating. "Mom, you're being ridiculous. Bella has been nothing but accommodating to you. The problem is, you're jealous that you're not the most important woman in my life anymore." The cruel words were delivered in a tone I'd never heard from my son before, dismissive and cold. "Not once do you congratulate us without making some comment about how fast everything is happening or how things should be done differently. Bella's right, you're trying to make this about you." I was speechless. In all our years together, through the hardest times after his father died, through teenage struggles and adult challenges, William had never spoken to me with such contempt. I tried to explain that my only concern was our changing relationship, but he cut me off. Either you can support us and stop complaining, or you can make yourself scarce during the events. Your choice. He walked away, leaving me alone on the darkening beach, with tears streaming down my face. The rehearsal dinner the following night was a carefully orchestrated display of Bella's dominance. Hosted by her parents at an exclusive restaurant overlooking the ocean, the event featured speeches from Bella's family and friends, with only token acknowledgement of William's side. I was seated at the furthest table from the wedding party, beside an elderly uncle of Bella's who was hard of hearing and spoke little during the meal. When the time came for toasts, Bella's father, mother, and 3 friends all spoke at length. When I had asked earlier about making a toast as mother of the groom, Bella had smiled tightly and said, "We need to keep things moving along, so we're limiting family speeches." Yet her extended family spoke for nearly 45 minutes. I watched William throughout the evening, searching for any sign of the son I knew, but he seemed transformed, laughing too loudly at his future father-in-law's jokes and barely making eye contact with me across the room. By the time I returned to my suite that night, I was emotionally exhausted. The wedding was the next day, and I felt like a stranger in what should have been a celebration of my son's happiness. The isolation and subtle cruelty had taken their toll, and for the first time in years I experienced a full-blown anxiety attack. My heart raced, my breathing became shallow, and tears wouldn't stop flowing. After an hour of trying to calm myself, I finally took a sleeping pill from the prescription I'd gotten after Jack died. I hadn't needed one in years, but the emotional distress and insomnia left me desperate for rest. As I felt the medication beginning to take effect, I gazed out at the moonlight, reflecting on the ocean, and tried to focus on positive thoughts. Tomorrow would be William's wedding day. Despite everything, I would put on a brave face and celebrate my son's marriage. Perhaps once the wedding stress was over, things would improve between us. Perhaps Bella would relax once she had the perfect wedding day she desired. With these hopeful thoughts, I drifted into a deep, medicated sleep, completely unaware of the nightmare that awaited me in the morning. I woke slowly, my mind foggy from the sleeping medication. Something felt strange, different, but in my semi-conscious state, I couldn't immediately identify what was wrong. I reached up to brush hair from my face, a habitual morning gesture, and my hand met skin, bare, smooth skin where my hair should have been. My fingers frantically explored my head, finding nothing but scalp, from forehead to nape. Fully awake now, heart pounding, I stumbled to the bathroom and flipped on the light. The mirror revealed a horrifying sight, my entire head completely shaved, not a single strand of my silver hair remaining. For several seconds, I simply stared, unable to process what I was seeing. Then reality crashed down. A guttural scream escaped my lips as I sank to the cold tile floor, hands still exploring my smooth scalp in disbelief. This couldn't be happening. This had to be a nightmare. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing myself to wake up from this terrible dream. But when I looked again, the reflection remained unchanged, completely bald. My beautiful silver hair, grown and cared for over decades, entirely gone. As shock gave way to panicked clarity, I noticed something on the floor near the balcony door. Silver strands catching the morning light. I crawled over my legs, too unsteady to support me, and found piles of my hair scattered across the carpet. This was real. Someone had entered my room while I slept and deliberately shaved my head. On my son's wedding day. With trembling hands, I reached for the phone and called the wedding coordinator, Amanda, who answered with cheerful efficiency until she heard my broken voice. "I need help. Please come to my room immediately. It's an emergency." She promised to be there in 5 minutes. Those 5 minutes stretched like hours as I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my hair on the carpet, trying to comprehend who would do something so cruel. Amanda gasped when I opened the door, her professional composure momentarily shattered. "Oh my God, Kennedy. What happened?" Before I could answer, voices in the hallway announced new arrivals. Bella appeared in the doorway, surrounded by 3 bridesmaids, all in matching robes for their morning preparations. At the sight of my shaved head, the bridesmaids' reactions ranged from shock to poorly concealed amusement. Bella simply smiled. "Well, I see you've discovered your wedding day makeover," she said calmly. I stared at her, unable to form words as the truth dawned on me. "You did this," I finally whispered. "Consider it well-deserved," she replied, examining her manicure. "Every event, every family gathering there you are with your perfect hair and your perfect clothes, making sure everyone notices you. Well, they'll definitely notice you today, but not for the reasons you hoped." One of the bridesmaids shifted uncomfortably. "Bella, maybe we should go," she murmured, but Bella waved her off. "Why?" Amanda asked, finding her voice. "I don't understand." "Because she spent the last 6 months trying to make this wedding about her instead of me," Bella snapped. "Because she can't stand not being the center of attention. Because she's jealous that William's finally putting someone else first." The door opened again, and William appeared, presumably summoned by one of the bridesmaids texting him. For one heartbreaking moment, I saw shock in his eyes as he took in my appearance. My son, my only child whom I'd raised with all the love and sacrifice I could muster, would surely be horrified by this violation. He would defend me. He would see finally what kind of woman he was about to marry. Instead, he began to laugh. It started as a snort, then grew into full, mocking laughter that cut through me like physical pain. "Now maybe someone will finally feel sorry for you," he said between chuckles. "Maybe now you'll stop trying to compete with my wife." My world collapsed. The betrayal was complete. Not only had Bella assaulted me in my sleep, but my son, my William, thought it was funny. He approved. In that moment, something fundamental broke between us, something I wasn't sure could ever be repaired. Amanda, to her credit, attempted to take control of the situation. "This is completely inappropriate," she said firmly. "Breaking into someone's room and cutting their hair without consent is assault. I need to inform hotel security and management." "Oh, please," Bella rolled her eyes. "It was a harmless prank. Kennedy will be fine. She can wear a scarf or something. The wedding's in 4 hours and we need to start hair and makeup." She turned to leave, adding over her shoulder, "Try not to cause any more drama, Kennedy. It's pathetic." William hesitated for a moment, and I saw a flicker of something doubt-regret cross his face. But it vanished quickly. He gave me one last cold look. "Get yourself together, Mom. We're not delaying anything for this." Then he followed Bella down the hallway, leaving me shattered in the doorway of my room. As news spread through the hotel staff and wedding, guests learned what had happened. Some were openly shocked and sympathetic. Others, primarily Bella's friends and family, seemed to find it amusing or justified. I overheard whispers. She did try to upstage the bride, and Bella finally put her in her place. Each comment was another wound. Despite everything, some stubborn part of me refused to give Bella and William the satisfaction of my absence. I would attend this wedding. I would hold my head high literally and figuratively. I would not let them see me broken, even though inside I was shattered beyond recognition. The hotel concierge, a kind woman named Teresa, helped me locate a boutique in the resort that sold scarves and wraps. Together, we selected an elegant silk scarf in a deep teal that complemented my dress. Teresa arranged it artfully around my head, creating a style that looked intentional rather than desperate. As a final touch, she added a vintage silver and turquoise pin to secure it. "You look beautiful," she assured me, though we both knew nothing could erase the humiliation and betrayal of what had happened. Still, her kindness was a tiny light in the darkest moment of my life. I thanked her with tears in my eyes, squared my shoulders, and prepared to face the wedding of my only son who had just shown me he was no longer the man I thought I had raised. Preparing for William's wedding under these circumstances was the hardest thing I'd ever done. My hands shook as I applied makeup, trying to create a semblance of normalcy. The woman in the mirror was a stranger, elegantly dressed in a silver blue gown I'd selected months ago, face carefully made up to hide the evidence of tears, and head wrapped in a teal silk scarf where my signature silver hair should have been. I looked different, diminished somehow despite my efforts to appear dignified. The walk from my room to the beach ceremony site felt like a gauntlet. Eyes followed me, conversations paused as I passed, and whispers trailed in my wake. I'd chosen to arrive just minutes before the ceremony began, hoping to minimize these moments. I nodded politely to those I knew, pretending I couldn't hear their muffled discussions about what had happened. The ceremony was set on a pristine white sand beach with an arch of tropical flowers framing the ocean beyond. Rows of white chairs held about 100 guests. As mother of the groom, I should have been escorted to a front row seat. Instead, a young usher I didn't recognize led me to a chair in the fourth row far to the side. An afterthought placement that couldn't have more clearly communicated my new status in my son's life. William's cousin Grace, who had been warm at the welcome reception, slipped into the seat beside me. Her hand covered mine briefly, a silent gesture of support that nearly broke my carefully maintained composure. "What happened to you is unforgivable," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. The music began, and William appeared with the officiant. My son, handsome in his tailored suit, looked happy and excited, with no sign of regret or concern about what had transpired hours earlier. As the bridesmaids processed down the aisle, I noticed several of them glancing my way, some with discomfort, others with barely concealed smirks. Then came Bella, radiant, in a designer gown that I'd helped pay for her dark hair, styled in an elaborate updo, adorned with fresh flowers. She was undeniably beautiful, and the gathered guests murmured their appreciation. She passed where I sat without a glance, taking her place beside my son with a triumphant smile. During the vows, I fought to maintain my dignity while battling waves of grief. The beautiful promises William made to honor, cherish, and respect Bella seemed a cruel contrast to the disrespect and cruelty I'd experienced at both their hands that morning. I wondered if anyone else noticed the irony of him promising faithfulness and kindness to a woman who had just demonstrated such deliberate malice. The complexity of my feelings was overwhelming. Despite everything, part of me still loved my son and wanted him to be happy. Yet I couldn't reconcile the William I had raised with the man standing before me, smiling at a woman who had assaulted his mother. I wondered when the change had happened. Had Bella's influence transformed him so completely? Or had there always been this capacity for cruelty that I somehow missed? After the ceremony, the photographer gathered family for pictures. I stood to the side, uncertain if I was even wanted, until the photographer awkwardly called mother of the groom. "We need you for this shot." William's expression was impatient as I took my place at the edge of the group. Bella positioned herself between William and me, a physical manifestation of the wedge she had driven between us. In the few photos where I stood directly beside my son, his body language was stiff, leaning away from me. The reception was held in an open-air pavilion overlooking the ocean. True to the updated seating chart, I was placed at a distant table with William's great-aunt, who was hard of hearing, two work acquaintances he barely knew, and a couple who were friends of Bella's parents. The table was positioned so far from the main wedding party that I could barely see my son through the crowd. Throughout the evening, I caught snippets of conversations about my appearance. A groomsman joked loudly at the bar about William finally cutting the cord with his mother. Someone else commented that the headscarf was probably an improvement. Each remark was a fresh wound, but I maintained my composure, smiling politely and engaging with my table companions as best I could. The serving staff had clearly been informed about the morning's events. Most avoided eye contact, embarrassed perhaps by their awareness of my humiliation. But one server, a young woman named Abigail, showed unexpected kindness. She brought me a glass of water with lemon when she noticed I wasn't drinking the champagne, quietly asking if I needed anything else. Later, when I struggled through the dinner with no appetite, she discreetly removed my barely touched plate without drawing attention to it. These small mercies were lifelines in an evening of continuous emotional battering. I endured the father's speech praising Bella's beauty and accomplishments, the best man's toast to William's luck in finding such a perfect partner, and the couple's first dance to a song about finding your soulmate. Through it all, I maintained a pleasant expression, though inside I was crumbling. No one acknowledged me in any speech. No one mentioned William's childhood or our journey together after his father died. It was as if my son's life had begun when he met Bella, everything before erased. After the cake cutting, which I viewed from a distance, I decided I could bear no more. I'd fulfilled my obligation to be present. Id shown that I could not be driven away by cruelty. Now I needed to escape before my carefully maintained facade collapsed completely. I made my way toward the exit, stopping briefly at the head table where William and Bella were surrounded by admirers. I touched William's shoulder lightly. "I'm going to retire now. Congratulations to you both." My voice was steady, betraying none of the turmoil within. William looked up, his expression unreadable. "Sure, Mom. Thanks for coming." No kiss on the cheek, no walk to the door, not even a full sentence. Bella didn't bother to look at me at all, continuing her conversation as if I hadn't spoken. The walk back to my room was endless. I passed groups of guests enjoying the beautiful Hawaiian evening, many of whom fell silent as I approached. By the time I reached my suite, I was running desperate for privacy. Once inside, I locked the door, slid to the floor, and finally allowed myself to break down completely. The sobs tore from my chest with physical pain. I cried for my beautiful hair, for 27 years of motherhood that had somehow led to this moment, for the son I had loved so completely, who had become unrecognizable to me. I cried until I was physically exhausted, curled on the floor beside the balcony door where my hair still lay in silver strands, cruel evidence of the morning's assault. When the tears finally subsided, I lay still, feeling empty and hollowed out. The ocean breeze drifted through the partially open balcony door, and with it came a moment of clarity that felt almost separate from my battered emotional state. This would not destroy me. I would not allow it to. Whatever happened next, I would face it with the same strength that had carried me through widowhood and single motherhood. With shaking hands, I reached for my phone and called Josephine, my oldest and dearest friend. She answered immediately, having texted me several times throughout the day with increasing concern when I hadn't responded. When I told her what had happened, her gasp of horror was followed by immediate practical support. "I'm booking a flight to Maui right now," she said firmly. "I'll be there tomorrow. We'll figure this out together. You're not alone, Kennedy." She stayed on the phone with me until I was calm enough to prepare for bed, promising to text when her flight was confirmed, and reminding me repeatedly of my own strength and resilience. That night, lying in the dark with my hand occasionally reaching up to touch my bare scalp in renewed disbelief, I made a decision. I would not seek petty revenge. I would not lower myself to Bella's level. But neither would I allow this assault to go unanswered. There would be consequences approached with dignity and clear purpose. What form those consequences would take, I didn't yet know. But for the first time since waking to this nightmare, I felt a glimmer of my own power returning. I spent the wedding night alternating between waves of grief and periods of surprising clarity. In the darkest hours, I considered options I would have dismissed in daylight: public humiliation for Bella, exposure of her cruelty on social media, even petty revenge like ruining their wedding photos. But with morning came perspective. Whatever response I chose would reflect who I was, not who they had tried to make me become. Josephine arrived at my hotel room just after 11 the next morning, having taken the first available flight from Boston. One look at my scarf-wrapped head, and she enveloped me in a fierce hug that broke through the numbness I'd been cultivating. We cried together briefly before her practical nature asserted itself. "First things first," she said, setting down her bag. "We're moving you to a different hotel. You don't need to be anywhere near them right now." While Josephine made arrangements by phone, I began packing, eager to leave the scene of both the wedding and the assault behind. As we settled into my new room at a smaller boutique hotel down the coast, Josephine helped me see the situation with brutal clarity. "Kennedy, what Bella did wasn't a prank or a momentary lapse in judgment. It was a calculated assault. She broke into your room while you were unconscious and violated you. In any other context, this would be a police matter." I haven't been able to think of it in those terms, I admitted. "Hez my son. She's his wife now. And that excuses criminal behavior," Josephine challenged. "Would you say that if she'd stolen your jewelry instead of your hair, or if she'd done this to any other guest?" Her directness forced me to confront the reality. It'd been dancing around what had happened was not a family squabble, but something far more serious. Over the next 2 days, Josephine stayed by my side as we worked through practical and emotional responses. We documented everything, taking photos of my shaved head from multiple angles and retrieving the strands of hair still scattered in my original hotel room. I started a detailed journal recording not only the assault, but all the incidents leading up to it, creating a timeline of Bella's escalating behavior and William's changing attitude. On our third day in Hawaii, we met with attorney Laura Bennett, a family law specialist who happened to be vacationing at our hotel. She agreed to a consultation over breakfast on the ocean terrace. After hearing my story, her professional demeanor gave way to genuine outrage. "What you've described is legally assault," she confirmed. "Cutting someone's hair without consent is considered battery in most jurisdictions. The fact that it happened while you were sleeping after taking medication adds another disturbing element." She outlined potential legal options from restraining orders to civil suits for emotional distress. When I expressed concern about taking legal action against my own son and his new wife, Laura was thoughtful but firm. "Sometimes the most loving thing we can do for family members is hold them accountable. Your son is an adult who participated in and approved of an assault against you. That behavior shouldn't be without consequences." With Laura's guidance, we secured the security footage from the hotel, showing Bella entering my room at 2:17 in the morning, carrying what appeared to be a small bag, and leaving 40 minutes later. This evidence transformed the situation from my word against hers to documented fact. While still in Hawaii, I received an unexpected call from Martha Jennings, William's godmother and my late husband's closest colleague. She had attended the wedding, but left immediately afterward for another commitment. "I'm devastated by what I've just heard, Kennedy. William called to check if I got home safely, and when I asked about you, he told me what happened as if it were some amusing anecdote." Martha had known William his entire life and was equally shocked by his behavior. During our conversation, she revealed something that Shed hesitated to mention earlier. "This isn't the first time Bella has shown this type of behavior. My niece Jessica worked at the marketing firm before Bella. There were incidents whispered about, but covered up because of Bella's connections to important clients. One involved sabotaging a female colleague's presentation by deliberately deleting files minutes before a major client meeting. This information painted a pattern that went beyond wedding stress or personal dislike. Bella had a history of targeting women she perceived as threats, particularly in professional settings where appearances and presentation mattered. Martha promised to connect me with her niece for further details. Acting on Attorney Bennett's advice, I hired a private investigator to look into Bella's background more thoroughly. The preliminary report was illuminating. Bella had been engaged twice before William, both times to men of considerable financial means. Both engagements ended abruptly with sealed settlements, suggesting financial payoffs. More concerning were the financial irregularities the investigator uncovered. Bella had opened credit accounts in William's name shortly after their engagement, accumulating significant debt he likely knew nothing about. While Josephine helped me navigate these practical steps, I was simultaneously working through my emotional recovery. Each morning, I forced myself to look in the mirror without the scarf confronting my shaved head and the vulnerability it represented. Each day became slightly easier as I reminded myself that my worth had never resided in my appearance. I found unexpected support in an online group for family estrangement and betrayal. The stories shared there helped me recognize that I wasn't alone in experiencing such profound rejection from a loved one. One particular post from a woman whose adult daughter had cut contact after marriage resonated deeply. "Your children can reject your presence in their lives, but they cannot erase the love and care you gave them. That remains true regardless of their choices." Through research and these support connections, I began to understand the dynamics of emotional abuse and manipulation that had likely contributed to William's transformation. The William who laughed at my distress wasn't the son I'd raised. He was someone whose perception had been systematically distorted by a skilled manipulator. This realization didn't excuse his behavior but helped me contextualize it and hold on to hope that the real William might someday emerge again. By the end of our week in Hawaii, a strategy had formed not of revenge but of truth and accountability. I would not publicly shame Bella or William. I would not engage in retaliatory behavior. Instead, I would systematically document and present the facts, allowing natural consequences to unfold. I would protect myself legally and financially while leaving the door open for reconciliation if genuine remorse and change occurred. As Josephine and I boarded our flight back to Boston, I touched my scarf-covered head. My hair would grow back. Whether my relationship with my son ever would remained an open question, but I was no longer focused on what I'd lost. Instead, I was beginning to recognize what I'd gained clarity about my own strength, the value of true friendship, and the knowledge that no one could diminish my worth unless I allowed it. The transformation I was undergoing wasn't the one Bella had intended, but it was powerful nonetheless. 2 weeks after returning home, I visited Transcendence, a high-end salon specializing in women experiencing hair loss. The owner, Sophia, had worked with cancer patients and alopecia sufferers for decades. She took one look at my unevenly shaved head and led me to a private consultation room. "We have 2 options," she explained gently. "We can fit you with a beautiful wig that matches your natural color and previous style, or we can embrace this as an opportunity for transformation." Looking at the photos of my previous style that Josephine had shown her, she added, "Your silver was stunning, but there are other ways to be stunning too." Something in her confidence spoke to me. I don't want to pretend this didn't happen, I decided. I want to move forward. Sophia nodded approvingly and called in her top stylist, Marcus. Together, they created an elegant, close-cropped style that worked with my natural growth pattern. As my hair began returning, the shape would evolve beautifully. In the meantime, Marcus taught me how to use makeup techniques to enhance my eyes and cheekbones, drawing attention to features that had often been overshadowed by my dramatic hair. This physical transformation was matched by an internal one. With the support of my therapist, Dr. Rivera, I was working through the complex emotions of family betrayal. I was angry, certainly, but also grieving the relationship I'd thought I had with William and the future I had envisioned as a grandmother and mother-in-law. Dr. Rivera helped me see that holding Bella and William accountable was not the same as seeking revenge or cutting ties permanently. It was possible to establish boundaries while leaving room for potential reconciliation. I began rebuilding my life with intentional choices. I sold the blue guest room furniture I'd kept for William's visits and transformed the space into a home office for my design work. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the whirlwind of wedding preparations. I even accepted a dinner invitation from Harold, a widower I'd met at a charity function months earlier but had been too busy to get to know. 3 months after the wedding, with my hair growing in nicely and my emotional equilibrium somewhat restored, I learned that William's godfather Richard was hosting a family gathering to celebrate his 70th birthday. William and Bella would be attending. After careful consideration and discussion with Dr. Rivera, I decided to go. This would be our first meeting since the wedding, and I wanted it to happen in a public setting with supportive people present. I prepared meticulously, selecting an outfit that expressed confidence, rather than competing for attention-tailored black pants, a crimson silk blouse, and statement jewelry that complemented my new, edgier hairstyle. Josephine accompanied me for moral support, and we arrived fashionably late to minimize awkward pre-dinner mingling. The momentary hush when I entered Richard's home confirmed that everyone knew what had happened in Hawaii. William's cousin Grace immediately approached, complimenting my new look with genuine warmth. Others followed, creating a buffer of friendly conversation. From across the room, I spotted William and Bella. He looked stunned at my transformed appearance, while she wore an expression of annoyance that her actions hadn't produced the devastated, diminished woman she'd expected. During dinner, I engaged easily with those around me, sharing updates about new design projects and listening with interest to others' stories. I neither sought out William and Bella nor avoided them. When the seating naturally brought us face to face during dessert, I maintained pleasant composure. William's discomfort was palpable. This wasn't going according to whatever script had imagined. As coffee was served, Richard called for everyone's attention to make a toast. After thanking guests for celebrating with him, he unexpectedly added, "And I want to recognize the extraordinary grace Kennedy has shown during a challenging time. Some of you know that I practice family law, and I've seen how betrayal can embitter people. Kennedy's response has been a lesson in dignity." He raised his glass to me as murmurs of agreement circulated. This public acknowledgement clearly unsettled Bella, who whispered something to William that made him frown. The moment might have passed unremarkably, except that William's cousin Jason chose that moment to ask innocently. "So Bella Kennedy looks amazing with her new style. Arent, you glad she found such a great salon after that horrible incident at the wedding?" Bella's response was defensive and revealing. "She should thank me. That old lady hairstyle was doing her no favors. She was trying to compete with me at my own wedding. I did her a favor honestly." The room fell uncomfortably silent as everyone absorbed this tacit admission. I hadn't planned to confront them that evening, but the moment presented itself organically. In the awkward silence, I spoke calmly. "I think it's time we addressed what happened. While I was unconscious from prescription sleep medication, you entered my room without permission and shaved my head without my consent. That's not a prank or a favor. It's assault, as the hotel security footage clearly shows." Bella's face flushed. "You always have to be the victim, don't you? Always have to be the center of attention. Poor Kennedy raising William alone, poor Kennedy losing her husband, poor Kennedy getting a haircut she didn't ask for. It's pathetic how you cling to him." Bella's voice had risen, attracting attention from throughout the room. William looked deeply uncomfortable but still attempted to defend her. "Mom, you're making a scene. Can we just enjoy the party?" "I'm simply stating facts, William. Facts documented by hotel security cameras, witness statements, and photographs. Facts I've shared with my attorney." I kept my voice level, never raising it to match Bella's increasing agitation. I had hoped we'd discuss this privately, but since Bella has brought it up here, I should also mention the credit accounts opened in your name without your knowledge. You might want to check your credit report. This was the piece of information from the private investigator's report that I knew would resonate most immediately with William, who had always been financially responsible. His expression shifted from embarrassment to confusion. "What credit accounts? What are you talking about?" he demanded. "Ask your wife," I replied simply. Bella's reaction was immediate and damning. She shot to her feet, knocking over her wine glass. "You're lying. You're just trying to come between us because you're jealous and lonely." Her outburst confirmed my statement more effectively than any evidence could have. What followed was a public meltdown that revealed Bella's true character more clearly than any explanation I could have offered. She alternated between attacking me verbally and making desperate attempts to discredit the information. William, initially supporting her, became increasingly silent as her behavior grew more erratic. When she finally slapped away his attempt to calm her and screamed, "You promised you'd keep her in her place." His expression changed to one I'd been waiting months to see recognition. Throughout this display, I maintained my composure, neither responding to her accusations nor attempting to defend myself further. The truth was unfolding without my intervention. Richard's partner, David, a retired judge, eventually suggested that Bella might want to step outside to collect herself. William followed her, his face a mask of confusion and dawning realization. The party continued somewhat awkwardly after their departure. I received numerous expressions of support and several apologies from family members who had witnessed but not fully understood the wedding incidents. While I appreciated their kindness, the evening had left me emotionally drained. Josephine and I left shortly afterward, declining Richard's invitation to stay longer. In the weeks that followed, I had no contact with William or Bella. Through family channels, I learned they had returned home early from Richard's party and had a significant confrontation. Bella had moved out temporarily, claiming she needed space from William's controlling family. I continued my routine of work therapy and rebuilding social connections, including several enjoyable dinners with Harold, whose kindness and humor were becoming increasingly important to me. 6 weeks after the party, I received a text from William asking if we could meet. We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a quiet cafe midway between our homes. He arrived, looking tired and much older than his 37 years. Our conversation was initially awkward, neither of us knowing quite how to bridge the chasm that had formed. Finally, William spoke the words I had been waiting for. "I'm sorry, Mom. What Bella did to you was inexcusable, and my reaction was even worse. There's no justification for how I treated you." His apology opened the door to a difficult but necessary conversation. William explained that he and Bella were separating. The credit card discovery had led him to investigate further, revealing financial deceptions and manipulations that had been occurring since early in their relationship. More importantly, he had begun to recognize how his own behavior had changed under her influence, not just toward me, but in all his relationships. "I don't even recognize myself these past months," he admitted, tears forming. "I don't know how I became someone who could laugh at my mother's pain. How I could watch someone hurt you and defend them instead of you." I shared my own perspective honestly, but without vindictiveness. I described the gradual changes I'd observed in him, the systematic way Bella had worked to isolate him from me and other supportive influences, and the research I'd done on manipulative relationships. I did not offer easy forgiveness or pretend the hurt hadn't happened, but I acknowledged his courage in recognizing the situation and taking steps to address it. Our relationship would not be repaired in a single conversation. Trust, once broken, requires time and consistent effort to rebuild. We agreed to begin with weekly dinners, a return to our old tradition and individual therapy sessions, before considering joint counseling to address the harm that had occurred between us. As William was leaving, he paused. "Your hair actually looks really good, Mom. It suits you." The comment, so simple and yet so meaningful after everything that had happened, brought tears to my eyes. It was a small acknowledgement of my resilience and transformation. In the months that followed, I found unexpected positive outcomes from the traumatic experience. The support group I'd joined during my initial recovery had evolved into meaningful friendships with women who understood family betrayal intimately. Together, we created a mentoring program for others experiencing similar situations, offering both emotional support and practical guidance about legal and financial protections. My relationship with William gradually improved as he did the difficult work of taking responsibility for his actions and understanding the patterns that had led to his behavior. Our weekly dinners became genuine reconnections rather than tense obligations. While I remained cautious, I could see glimpses of the sun I'd raised re-emerging from beneath the influence Bella had exerted. Bella herself attempted various manipulations to regain control, from tearful apologies to threats of legal action for defamation. When these failed, she eventually accepted the divorce settlement William's attorney proposed and moved to the West Coast for a fresh start. I felt no satisfaction in her departure, only relief that her capacity to cause harm in our lives was diminished. My friendship with Harold deepened into a relationship that brought unexpected joy to my life. At 67, I had not anticipated finding romantic connection again, but his gentle humor and genuine appreciation for who I was, not just how I looked, created a partnership of equals that enriched us both. The most profound change, however, was internal. I had discovered a resilience I didn't know I possessed, and a clarity about my own worth that transcended external validation. The assault meant to diminish me had instead revealed my strength. The rejection meant to isolate me had instead connected me to a community of support I might otherwise never have found. My hair eventually grew back, though I kept it in a stylish, shorter cut that I had come to prefer. But the wisdom I gained could not have been acquired without going through the fire of betrayal and emergence. I learned that forgiveness is not about excusing harmful actions, but about liberating yourself from the burden of resentment. I learned that standing up for yourself is not the same as seeking revenge. Most importantly, I learned that our worth is inherent, not determined by how others treat us, or even by those we love most. If you're watching this and struggling with family betrayal or rejection, please know that healing is possible. The path isn't quick or easy, but on the other side is a strength and clarity you might never have discovered otherwise. I'd love to hear your stories of resilience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they too can survive what feels unsurvivable. Thank you for listening to my journey from betrayal to empowerment. Remember, sometimes the most beautiful transformations begin with the most painful losses.